Cory, Michelle, and Jim Sharp have chosen to share an experience that stepped them out of their comfort zones and left them to question the validity of living with lists and expectations. This series, called Opening Portals of Possibility, shares a very real, vulnerable experiment of questioning everything. Cory, Michelle, and Jim invite you to see how you might create an experience to question the making of lists and expectations and see what new possibilities might show up in your life.
So I'm here with Cory Michelle Johnson, and she's an access consciousness facilitator and just a fabulous human being altogether. She's definitely stepping into a deeper realm of spirituality and creation, and I'm so excited to talk about this experience that we did this weekend.
Yeah, so this is my friend Jim Sharp, and we have butterflies all over the place here. And Jim is fabulous! How could you not want to know what Jim is up to in his life and where he's going? He's just amazing and on a really cool journey with his new school for deepening. So we chose to do something that not a lot of people would choose to do in the way that we did it. So basically we connected, we had this really cool connection, and then we were like, God, what would it be like if, well, first of all, when we first connected, we just had magic showed up in our experience of just the allowance for each other and who we be, and then all of a sudden a parking ticket disappeared and we were asking questions and all sorts of stuff was showing up. We're like, oh, how cool would it be if we did that for a whole weekend? And what we chose to do was create this weekend from no expectations, no projections, no anything out there in the future, purely being in the moment and allowing ourselves to be totally vulnerable at the same time and playful. And so we wanted to just share with you how our weekend went.
Yes, and what came from that was that what we did is we opened a portal of possibilities. Mm-hmm. And we did that by getting rid of the story. And we had every reason. We could have easily said we both have very busy lives. I have a daughter, and Cory Michelle has just a thriving business. And we had every reason to say, no. We live in different cities. And Cory called me and said, what do you think about this? And, the first thing my mind said was all the reasons I shouldn't do it. And then I went back to the crazy magic that happened when we were together. And I know that she is a very deep, sincere person. So I knew that I had to do this, and that something magic was going to happen. And if we put two of us in the same weekend together, some really cool stuff had happened. And we did. We had magic show up.
Yeah, and it's really cool coming from this place of, and there's also a really cool attraction between the two of us. So we totally could have had not only all of the things that would stop us, like time and money and kids and business and whatever, but also the projections of, oh, maybe because we're this sort of magic together, then that means this and this and this and this, which totally stops all possibility. And you're in conclusion. So we just removed all of that to see what would show up this weekend.
Right, and and what was very cool is that we just came to an agreement about that's what was going to happen. We got rid of all of our lists, all the ideas of what we thought was going to happen, and we said, let's just create together and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And, I just got to say this, on the surface stuff that happened, we've had, for me, it's been an amazing weekend, and, amazing, with so much magic showing up in almost every moment that I've been here. Mm-hmm. But the moment, I'm getting chills just now thinking about it, that me looking at the weekend, just waiting to see what kind of magic we were going to make this weekend, mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I know that things are going to show up, but the first thing that shows up is I just get on this plane, I get there, and I'm waiting for Cory to come pick me up, and for some reason, I just spun through my Facebook, and all of a sudden, I see that my favorite band that I've been following for years is literally playing in San Diego, and they're not even really on a tour, and they're from Arizona. There's no reason that they should be literally right down the street from us. And so that was the first little piece of real what some people would call coincidence.
Right. Well, we really started asking the question of hey, what is possible when we get together and we be in this space, the space of creation, space of possibility, space for each other, and just play. And then that shows up the first thing, and he says, "Oh, my favorite band's gonna be here tonight." And he says the whole story, and I'm like, "That sounds fun. Let's do that." And it was so much fun because I had never heard of them before, and it was a blast, and I totally fell in love with them. And we had such an amazing time there, and just absorbing the music and his joy, and he knew like all the lyrics to all the songs, and getting to be with you there, and then all about magic was just really cool. So that was one thing that showed up this weekend, which was sort of out of the normal, ordinary, whatever.
Yeah, that was, to me, that was like, okay, the spooky stuff has already begun. And so we had a couple of other things that were really big outside the box thinking things. Like, when I was talking about my friend and I said, I just put her on the spot. I said, we were talking about a friend from the past. And I said, I bet you can't come up with his name. And she didn't even, there was no flinching. There was not even a second of recognition. And she said his name out loud. And I just about fell out of my chair. And to me it was that we were so connected psychically in that moment that she wasn't thinking. There was no time to think.
No, I just knew. Like being in that space for each other when we have all of the projections and expectations and wants and desires and all of that stuff kind of combined into our field, then we're not being present. We're taking ourselves out of the presence when we're like, oh, is he going to do this or is he going to do that or where's this going to go or whatever all that stuff is. It's all just keeping you from being totally in the moment and receiving whatever there is to receive, right? The joy, the happiness, the messages, right? For me to say his name like that was like, it came through before you even asked the question. I was like, bam! And I was like, is that it? He's like, oh my God.
It was incredible. I almost fell out of my chair. And yeah, you said it correct. We just put down everything. We both said, and we even confirmed it when we got here, like vulnerability, like absolute vulnerability. And so we knew that something was going to happen this weekend, and it happened all weekend. Yeah. Like in every moment, everything that we did was spectacular. Everything was deeper. Everything had more profundity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what was so cool is like, sometimes we think about, oh, it's going to be this adventure and this like epic things are going to show up, right? Like we're going to find a pile of money behind a tree or, but really like what I've seen this weekend is we've had some amazing experiences together, but also just the space in being with each other. We've actually sat around and having conversations in my apartment, and it's been awesome. It just feels really expansive and yummy and juicy. So it's like all of the things we think we need to do to have those experiences that expand us, sometimes it's just in a conversation where you're just getting each other, right? And then it's like, in that space of no judgment, because I don't feel like you judge me at all, which is
same here.
Such a gift.
Yeah.
You're not projecting anything, which is a gift, and neither am I. And just that space of like, oh, I really get what you're saying. That's so cool. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've been totally received. And that's one of the most joyful things for me is just being received and being able to receive somebody.
Exactly. And in doing that the key to that was our vulnerability. We both said it didn't matter like what it was. We were going to say what needed to be said in that moment, and we did. I mean, there were times when you said stuff out loud that was really not very shocking to me, but for you it was something big, and it was the same thing with me. I said stuff that would have normally been stuff that I would have held back and not said in the moment. I said it. Probably wasn't that big of a deal for you, but I wouldn't have normally done it. And you used a word a lot this weekend, which was light. And I think that was where most of the joy collecting came from. It was just joy collecting. You had nectar collectors here. And we let everything just kind of play out throughout the weekend. And so we wanted to just introduce this as an experience, that there's a lot of things in self-help and spiritual things that say avoid this, avoid that, avoid this, avoid that. And this is how you're going to make your path. In truth, really what you have to do is be vulnerable in a lot of places. And you and I just we took it to the highest level. Yes. And if you find yourself with these opportunities, I would suggest other people do this. I'm going to do this again. I don't know about you, but I would love to experience this with you again.
Of course.
But I'm taking this into my life and seeing if I can find other play partners, because that's what you are to me, is you're a play partner, because you're not just a play partner with all these lists, rules, and everything else. You're a play partner in deepening and opening up and expanding our horizons.
Yeah, like the true play, and like the video I showed you the other night. It's this little I don't know, 12-month-old or less toddler and this puppy, and the puppy's teasing the kid, and the kid is going back and forth, and all of a sudden they end up in this little puppy pile, and they're just like, ah! And I just saw that as like the total vulnerability you can have if you don't have any of these projections and expectations and barriers, and your heart's locked down. If you don't have any of that, what's actually possible, right? Like, you can step into these joyful moments with people that are just so juicy and beyond expectation. Hey, why don't we tell you about the beach experience we had?
Yes, and we made a really good articulation about our trip to the beach.
Right.
I was very excited to do that. I haven't been here in over a decade, I think, and to just get back in there was cool.
Yeah. So he really wanted to go to the beach, and we kept going to these beaches I live in Encinitas, California, so we kept going to these beaches, and I was like, oh, we're going to go to this one. This is going to be great. And then, like, we couldn't get a parking spot. And then we were like, okay, let's manifest, let's actualize this parking spot, because I always get rock star parking.
Right.
Wherever I'm supposed to be, I always get great parking. So we're going around this one, and then this guy wants to go around us because he thinks he's like gonna leave, and then all of a sudden a parking spot opens up and he gets it, right? So I'm like, that's really interesting that he just got the parking spot that would have gone to us. Like, okay, great, let's just go to the next beach. So it was great because I knew he really wanted to be at the beach and in the ocean, and I was like, I really want you to have that. Let's get to the beach, right? And it was perfect sun and everything, and so we were both just totally chill about it, which was so great. He's like, whatever, we'll get there, and I'm like, okay, great. So we go to the next beach, we find a perfect parking spot, we get out, and he goes, and I set up a couple chairs and the little thing, and he goes and starts doing handstands in the ocean again. He's like, I'm gonna do my handstand. I'm gonna do my handstand. So
That's something I've been working on for a while. So yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I gotta get this on camera. So I just took a bunch of pictures, and we got the perfect one of him just like right when he got it for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
In the sand, the water's going and everything. So it was just really cool to be there for that experience with him. And then he ran off into the ocean, but.
Yes, and then when she did that, then she took a picture, which I thought had been taken some other time, and I'm like, oh my God, Cory, that is beautiful. Like, that's just an amazing picture. And she had posted on Facebook, and I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah. It was interesting because I was like taking pictures of him, and I was like, I wonder what I look like right now. And I just turned the camera around, and I'm like, oh, that's a really great photo, like in the moment. And what we were experiencing was, joy isn't necessarily this excitement, like all this stuff has to happen, right? It's being in the moment and being in that vulnerable space of receiving whatever there is to receive in the moment. And we were both experiencing joy and was totally relaxed. And some people would have said, oh, it's not an adventure, or it's too relaxed, or he came all the way out here to visit you. Why didn't you go and do something epic? Well, it kind of was epic in a sense.
The whole thing was epic. It was, I even just admitted to Cory that I was so overwhelmed, just the fact that we were so easy with each other, and the waves, the beach, the pictures of the handstands, and everything was so toiled up that I was almost overwhelmed with how much joy I was processing. And you would think that just like a trip to the beach would just be, like just another thing that you do and it's exciting and whatever else. But truly for us in this weekend it was totally about collecting joy in every single moment that was there.
Right.
The waves were coming in, and we could feel we allowed the energy to come in. We, everything was just perfect.
Right, and we sat there and we just had like every conversation we have is just like, oh, it's so great to just be heard, to be received, to have these conversations that expand me, that expand him, that give us more of what we're asking for, and in deepening our own selves and our own experience, where it's, what if like joy, happiness, and what we think we're looking for isn't what we think it is, right? And that's what my question always is what if everything is actually the opposite of what it appears to be? We keep going for this joy, and it's something outside of us is supposed to make us feel this way.
Right.
But really, what I found is joy comes from within. And when you're radiating the joy, you can be that in every single moment because you're open to receiving it. Your barriers are down, and you can receive the moment when you can't find a parking spot.